The forbidden warning. The council chamber of the Zorath Empire was silent. 1,000 eyes, shining green and cold, turned toward the prisoner. The alien messenger stood in the center, his wrists bound with glowing chains. His skin was pale and his voice shook, but his words carried a strange power. "Do not attack the humans," he warned. "If you strike them, they will never let you escape." The chamber erupted with laughter. The commanders, tall and armored, looked at each other with disbelief. Humans, those fragile creatures of Earth? They were small, weak, and lived for such short spans of time. Compared to the mighty Zorath, humans were nothing more than insects waiting to be crushed. Commander Varen, the leader of the War Council, rose from his seat. His voice was deep and commanding. "You dare to stand before us and speak such nonsense? Humans are weak. Their planet is young. Their weapons are primitive. They are no match for the Empire." The prisoner shook his head slowly, his eyes full of fear. "You do not understand. You see their bodies and think they are weak. But you do not see their spirit. Humans do not stop. They do not forgive. They fight until the enemy is broken." The council mocked him again, but the messenger did not falter. His voice grew louder, desperate. "I have seen them. I have seen what they do to enemies who think them weak. They do not fight for land. They do not fight for glory. They fight for survival. And when they fight for survival, nothing in this galaxy can stop them." For a moment, silence returned. Even the proud commanders shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The way the prisoner spoke, the terror in his voice, it was unlike any enemy they had ever faced. But Commander Varen slammed his staff against the floor, breaking the silence. "Enough. You are a traitor to your kind. You speak of fear, but we are warriors of the Zorath. We fear no one, especially not a race of soft-skinned creatures tied to a single planet." The guards dragged the prisoner back, but before he was taken away, he shouted once more. His words echoed through the chamber like thunder. "You may crush their bones, but their will is unbreakable. If you fight the humans, they will follow you. They will hunt you, and they will never, ever let you escape." The council chamber grew cold. Some of the younger officers exchanged uneasy glances. But pride was stronger than caution. None dared to question their commander in public. Varen turned to his fleet generals. "Prepare the armada. We strike Earth within the next cycle. The humans will fall, and their planet will belong to the Zorath Empire." The council roared in agreement. The prisoner was dragged into the shadows, his warnings ignored. That night, alone in his quarters, Commander Varen could not sleep. He stared at the star map where Earth glowed as a small blue. His mind returned again and again to the messenger's words. Why did he speak with such terror? Why did he say they never let you escape? Varen shook his head. It did not matter. The humans were only beginning to travel their own star system. They were not an empire, not even a serious power. And yet, he remembered something. Years ago, reports had come in from border scouts. Small skirmishes with human fleets, primitive ships, but the humans fought with strange tactics. They sacrificed themselves without hesitation. They did not run. They fought until the last ship was destroyed. At the time, the scouts had called them reckless. But now, was it recklessness? Or something else? Varen pushed the thoughts away and activated the fleet order. Across the Empire, warships lit up, preparing for the invasion. Far away in the dark prison cell, the messenger sat in silence. His chains glowed, but his eyes glowed brighter. He whispered to himself, "They will not listen, and so they will learn. The humans will show them. The humans always show them." In the vastness of space, the Zorath fleet began to gather. Hundreds of ships glowing with power, all aimed at a single fragile world. To the commanders, Earth was prey. To the prisoner, it was a trap. And as the fleet moved closer to their target, the warning hung in the air, like a curse. Do not attack the humans. They will never let you escape. First contact. The Zorath fleet entered the Sol system in silence. Hundreds of massive warships cut through the void like steel predators. Their weapons glowed faintly, ready to unleash destruction at the first command. From the bridge of the flagship Dominion, Commander Varen studied the blue planet on the screen. Earth. To him, it looked small, almost fragile, floating alone in the dark sea of space. Pathetic, one of his officers muttered. Such a weak world. So much water, so many storms. A perfect jewel to add to the Empire. But Varen did not respond. The words of the prisoner still whispered in his mind. Do not attack the humans, they will never let you escape. He shook off the thought. Pride was stronger than doubt. Send out a scout ship, Varen ordered. Let us measure their defenses. The scout ship glided toward Earth, its hull cloaked with Zorath stealth technology. From orbit, its sensors scanned the planet. Cities glittered across continents. Satellites circled the world. Space stations floated above, crude compared to Zorath power, yet active. Commander, the scout captain reported through the channel, humans are more advanced than expected. They have spread across every landmass. Their population is vast. Millions. No, billions. Billions? Varen frowned. And yet their fleets are small, their weapons primitive. Numbers will not save them. The captain hesitated. And yet they spread like fire. No place on the planet is empty. Even the harshest deserts hold them. Their kind is everywhere. Before Varen could respond, the signal cut off. The scout ship was gone. The bridge crew froze. What happened? Varen barked. No explosion detected, replied the sensor officer. No debris. The ship vanished. Impossible. Check again. But the readings remained the same. One moment the ship was there. The next, nothing. Unease spread across the bridge. Ships did not simply vanish. Not Zorath ships. Varen's jaw tightened. Send another scout. This time the second scout ship stayed farther from Earth, watching carefully. Its crew whispered nervously, remembering the warnings. Commander, the captain reported. Human satellites are turning toward us. They are watching us. Impossible, the officer beside Varen hissed. No primitive planet can pierce Zorath's stealth, but the captain's voice shook. They see us. I am sure of it. And then, the humans responded. From Earth, a signal burst across space. It was not a weapon, not an attack. It was a message. The human voice was calm, almost polite. We know you are here. Do not come closer. The bridge of the Dominion fell, silent. Even the proud officers did not laugh. Did they detect us? One finally whispered. Varen clenched his fists. The prisoner's warning returned to him again. They will never let you escape. But pride would not allow retreat. They are bluffing, he said coldly. Their technology is not capable of detecting us. Advance the fleet. As the armada pushed forward, strange patterns appeared across human networks. The Zorath intercepted messages, broadcasts, and history records. They saw wars that had burned continents, plagues that had killed millions, disasters that had destroyed cities, and every time humans rebuilt. Every time they came back stronger. They survived everything, one Zorath analyst whispered. Their own planet tried to kill them, and still they endure. The council on the flagship laughed nervously, but no one felt true amusement. Meanwhile, the humans made no move to strike first. They waited, watching, silent. That silence was worse than any weapon. It made the Zorath restless. Why do they not attack? The officers whispered. Why do they let us come closer? Varen gave no answer. Deep in his mind, he feared the reason. Humans were not waiting because they were weak. They were waiting because they were ready. The fleet reached the orbit of Mars. Red dust storms swirled below, hiding old scars of past wars. But above, human stations floated like watchtowers. They were crude, but they were armed. A message flashed again from Earth. This time it was not calm. It was sharp like a blade. Leave our system, this is your only warning. The officers on the bridge grew pale. It was the same warning the prisoner had given them, only now it came from the humans themselves. Varen stared at the screen. His pride battled with the growing fear inside him. The humans were daring him to strike, and he would. Arm the fleet, he commanded. We test their defenses. Begin with the outpost on Mars. The order rang out, and the warships prepared for battle. Weapons glowed across the dark void, ready to unleash death upon a species the Empire considered weak. But in the silence of the command bridge, Varen could not escape the memory of the warning. Do not attack the humans. They will never let you escape. As the first shots prepared to fire, he wondered if he had just doomed them all. The hidden strength. The Zorath fleet hovered above Mars like a storm of iron. Their weapons burned with red light, pointed at the small human outposts below. Commander Varen stood tall on the bridge of the Dominion. His pride was fierce, his confidence unshaken. Fire, he ordered. The first blast streaked through the void, slamming into a human station above Mars. Metal tore apart, flames spilled into the darkness, and fragments scattered like ash. The officers on the bridge cheered. To them this was proof of Zorath power, see? One laughed. Humans are nothing, they cannot stand before us. But Varen's eyes narrowed. Something was wrong. The humans did not scream. They did not beg. They did not even send surrender signals. Instead, silence. Moments later, the second outpost responded. Not with panic, but with fire. Small human, ships crude compared to Zorath warcraft, launched from hidden bays. They moved fast, weaving like insects. But these insects did not scatter. They attacked. Impossible, shouted a Zorath officer. They dare strike us? The human. Ships darted in, firing missiles, striking at weak points, slipping between the larger Zorath cruisers. They were not stronger, not faster, but they were clever. Commander, they are targeting engines, not weapons, the tactical officer warned. Varen's eyes widened. Engines. They are trying to trap us. The humans were not fighting to win the battle in one strike. They were fighting to make escape impossible. The first Zorath destroyer roared as its engines went dark. It spun helplessly in orbit, unable to move. The humans swarmed it, attaching themselves to its hull like ants on a predator. Explosions rippled from inside. The humans had boarded the ship. How did they get inside? An officer shouted. Varen's chest grew heavy. They are reckless. They sacrifice themselves to strike us from within. On the comms, the voices of panicked soldiers screamed, "They're everywhere. Humans are inside the halls. They—" The signal cut off. Silence. Again. The destroyer's lights faded to black. Fear began to spread across the bridge. Officers looked at each other with unease. The humans were supposed to be weak, yet they fought like predators with no fear of death. "Commander," one whispered. Perhaps the prisoner was right. "Enough," Varen roared, slamming his hand against the console. "One ship lost means nothing. We are the Zorath Empire. Destroy them all." The fleet unleashed its power, beams of red light scorching space. Human ships exploded one after another. But for every ship destroyed, two more appeared, hidden behind asteroids, emerging from dark corners of space. It was not their weapons that terrified the Zorath. It was how humans fought. They never ran. They never surrendered. And every death seemed to sharpen the survivors. Hours passed. The battlefield above Mars was littered with fire and wreckage, but the Zorath could not find peace in victory. Varen studied the reports. Dozens of Zorath ships were damaged, engines destroyed, supplies stolen, and worse, human tactics were improving during the fight. They learned with every clash. "This is not possible," the science officer muttered. "No species adapts this fast, but humans did." Varen leaned back in his command chair. For the first time he felt it, the edge of fear. This is what the prisoner meant. Not their strength, not their weapons, their will. Their will is unbreakable. On Earth, human leaders gathered. They did not argue for surrender. Instead, they activated a plan hidden for years, Project Aegis. A defense network spread across orbit designed for one purpose: to fight giants with cunning. Within minutes, satellites turned into weapons, linking together, forming traps of energy fields. The Zorath fleet advanced toward Earth, but suddenly ships collided with invisible nets of force. Engines sparked. Systems failed. They predicted our path, cried a Zorath navigator. On the Dominion, Varen gritted his teeth. So the humans waited. They let us believe they were weak. They hid their true claws until now. His pride began to crack. The prisoner's words rang louder in his head. They will never let you escape. The humans attacked again. Small ships pierced through gaps, targeting command bridges, fuel reserves, oxygen systems. Every strike was chosen with precision. It was not war. It was a hunt. The Zorath, masters of conquest across dozens of worlds, suddenly felt like prey. By the end of the cycle, silence filled the bridge. Reports came in one after another. 3 destroyers lost, 2 cruisers disabled, multiple ships boarded, no survivors. And still, the humans kept coming. Varen rose from his chair, his voice low. This is their strength. Not numbers, not weapons, but the fire inside them. He looked at the burning red planet below and the blue planet beyond it. For the first time, he wondered if this war had already been lost. The humans did not fight for empire. They fought for survival. And for survival, they would do anything. And survival was the strongest weapon in the galaxy. The battlefield around Mars burned. Zorath wreckage floated in silence, glowing like dying stars. For the first time in centuries of conquest, the Empire's fleet felt the sting of fear. Humans had struck them, not with stronger weapons, but with sharper minds. On the bridge of the Dominion, Commander Varen paced. His claws tapped against the steel floor. Reports of sabotage, boarding, and disappearing ships filled the air. His officers whispered nervously. This war should have ended in hours, one muttered. Instead, we are bleeding. Varen silenced him with a glare. Enough. The humans are clever, but they are still weak. We crush them here, at Mars, before they reach our supply lines. But even as he spoke, he felt unease. He remembered the warning. They will never let you escape. The fleet prepared to fire again. Massive cannons powered up, targeting the last human stations. But before the order could be given, alarms screamed across the bridge. Commander, shouted the sensor officer. Ships. Human ships emerging from behind Phobos and Deimos. Dozens of vessels darted out from Mars's moons. They had been hiding, waiting. They waited for us to commit, Varen growled. This is an ambush. The human ships were smaller, weaker in armor, but their attack was precise. They swarmed like hunters around a wounded beast, striking, engines cutting communication arrays, targeting weak joints in Zorath hulls. One Zorath cruiser tried to retreat, but its engines flickered out. A dozen human craft latched onto its hull. Explosions bloomed along its surface, and then the mighty ship split apart, silent fire consuming it. The Zorath fleet fired back, destroying several human ships in seconds, but more kept coming. And every time a human ship fell, the survivors adjusted their formation, their tactics sharper, their strikes faster. They learned too quickly, hissed one officer. Every second they grow stronger. Varen clenched his jaw. They are using us, bleeding us slowly, but why? Then he understood. The humans were not trying to win here. They were hurting the Zorath fleet, pushing them deeper, closer to Earth, the trap. Hours later, the Zorath finally broke through the human swarm and destroyed the last Mars station. Victory was claimed, but it tasted bitter. Too many losses. Too many ships crippled. The fleet limped forward toward Earth. Varen told himself it was progress. Yet inside, doubt gnawed at him. The humans, meanwhile, prepared the second stage of their plan. Hidden deep within Earth's orbit was Project Helix, a network of satellites and stealth drones. They had been silent during the battle at Mars, waiting for the perfect moment. That moment had come. As the Zorath armada crossed the space between Mars and Earth, strange energy pulses rippled through the void. "Commander," cried the science officer. "The region ahead, it is distorted. Fields, traps." Suddenly the fleet slammed into invisible walls of energy. Ships spun out of control, engines failed, shields collapsed. Panic spread. "We are caught," screamed an officer. From the shadows of space, human drones attacked. They were small, barely larger than escape pods, but each carried devastating charges. They hurled themselves at the trapped ships, detonating engines and splitting hulls. The Zorath fleet twisted in chaos. Ships collided with one another, their formations broken. "It is not random," Varen realized. His eyes narrowed as he watched the chaos unfold. "This is designed. Every step, every battle, the humans led us here." The humans had built a battlefield, a cage around Earth, and the Zorath had walked straight into it. On Earth, a signal pulsed through the void. "You should have listened to the warning. Now you are ours." Zorath soldiers, veterans of 100, wars began to break. Fear spread faster than the humans' fire. The once proud invaders now whispered in terror. "They will never let you escape," one muttered, echoing the words of the prisoner. "On the bridge of the Dominion," officers argued. "Retreat. We must retreat before the fleet is lost." "No, to retreat is shame. We are surrounded. If we stay, we die. If we flee, they will hunt us." Varen roared over them all. "Silence. I will not see the Empire crawl before humans." Yet deep in his chest, he knew the truth. The humans had trapped them, and there was no clean escape. The battle raged for hours. Every Zorath ship destroyed another human craft, but every human sacrifice tightened the net. Piece by piece, the Empire's fleet was being dismantled. By the end, dozens of Zorath ships floated as burning wrecks. The survivors were scattered, limping, broken, and Earth loomed closer than ever. Varen stood at the viewport, his reflection pale against the burning stars. The prisoner's words returned. "Sharper than any blade, do not attack the humans. They will never let you escape." Fear spreads. The Zorath fleet drifted in chaos. Wreckage floated in every direction, burning like red lanterns in the void. What had begun as a proud march toward conquest had turned into a desperate struggle for survival. On the flagship Dominion, silence ruled the bridge. Officers avoided each other's eyes. Their once proud voices had grown weak, trembling with doubt. One finally broke the silence. "Commander, the humans knew. They planned every step. We are not hunters. We are prey." Varen's claws dug into the steel armrest of his chair. He wanted to silence them with rage, but the words echoed his own hidden fears. The humans had led them into the trap at Mars. The humans had turned Earth's orbit into a cage. And still, they did not stop. Every time the Zorath destroyed a human ship, more appeared. Every time the Zorath adjusted, humans adapted faster. It was not just battle anymore. It was a hunt. Across the fleet, soldiers whispered in their barracks. Veterans of dozens of wars shook with fear like untested recruits. They spoke of humans boarding their ships, slipping through vents, fighting with nothing but knives and fire in their eyes. "They do not fear death," one soldier whispered. "They rush at us even when they know they will fall. Who fights like that?" Another replied, "Demons. They are not a species. They are demons wearing fragile skin." And so the fear spread, not only through the fleet but across the Empire. Rumors traveled faster than light. On distant colonies, civilians whispered the tale. "The humans are coming." On the Dominion, Varen called a council of his surviving commanders. They sat around the table, their proud postures now bent with unease. "We must regroup," one argued. "Return to the outer rim. Gather more ships." Another slammed his fist against the table. "And run? Is that what you propose?" "The Empire has never run." The first commander leaned forward, his eyes sharp. "And if we stay, we die. You saw Mars. You saw Earth. They will not let us leave this system. Even if we flee, they will follow." The words sent a chill through the chamber. No one spoke for several moments. All of them remembered the warning they had mocked. Do not attack the humans. They will never let you escape. Then came the voice. It cut across every Zorath communication channel, cold and steady. A human voice. You came to our world. You burned our stations. You thought we were weak. Now you cannot run. You cannot hide. You started this, and we will finish it. The message repeated again and again across the fleet. No matter how the Zorath tried to block it, the human signal broke through. Soldiers trembled as the words filled their ships. Some covered their ears, others shouted in panic, but no one could escape it. Fear spread like fire. The humans struck, again not with grand fleets but with small sharp blades of war. Tiny strike teams boarded Zorath ships. They moved through shadows, silent and deadly. Entire squads of Zorath soldiers vanished without a sound. On one cruiser, the lights flickered. The crew rushed to repair systems, only to find human Marines, already inside, crawling through maintenance tunnels. Minutes later, the cruiser's engines exploded. On another vessel, the crew surrendered, opening the doors rather than face the humans in the halls. The mighty Zorath, conquerors of worlds, had begun to break without a single order from their commanders. Veyron raged as reports poured in. Cowards! You dishonor the Empire. But even he felt the weight of despair. The humans were not just winning battles. They were destroying the Zorath spirit. In the lower decks of the Dominion, young soldiers whispered, "They will never stop." They are already here. What if they are on this ship now? Paranoia spread. Some soldiers fired at shadows. Others locked themselves in armories, refusing to fight. One officer tried to calm them. They are only humans. But the reply came, trembling. Humans are worse than monsters. And so, the fleet fractured. Some commanders begged for retreat. Others argued for one last strike, but none believed in victory anymore. Veyron stood at the viewport, staring. At Earth, a blue world shining against the dark. It looked small, fragile. Yet somehow it felt vast and endless, as if its spirit stretched beyond the stars. He whispered to himself, though no one heard, "What kind of species are you?" Across the galaxy, the legend spread. Traitors, smugglers, spies, all carried the tale. The Zorath fought the humans, and the humans did not let them escape. The empire that had ruled for centuries was now whispered about with doubt. Fear spread not just among soldiers, but across planets, colonies, and rulers, and the humans had only begun. In the silence of his command chamber, Veyron finally understood. This war was no longer about conquest. It was about survival. And the humans had already won the part of war that mattered most. Fear, the last stand. The Zorath fleet was broken. Once a wall of steel that darkened the stars, it now floated in pieces, ships crippled, engines burning, soldiers whispering in terror. Fear had spread like poison, and the Empire's proud warriors had become prey. On the flagship Dominion, Commander Veyron stood in silence. His eyes burned with exhaustion, but his pride kept him standing. Reports filled the air. 3 more cruisers destroyed. 2 captured by humans. Another squad refuses to fight. Every word was a knife. Veyron clenched his claws. If we retreat now, we are nothing. The Empire will collapse. This is our last chance. Around him, officers shifted nervously. They no longer believed in victory, but they had no choice. If they returned defeated, their own people would execute them. And so the order was given. The Zorath would make one final stand. The fleet gathered what remained of its strength. Engines burned, shields powered, and weapons glowed like suns. Ships formed a wall of iron between Earth and the stars. This is it, Veyron declared. We fight here, and we fight to the end. The bridge crew forced themselves to roar in agreement, but in their eyes, there was only fear. Then the humans came from the darkness of space. They appeared not in one fleet, but in many. Small strike groups, hidden carriers, silent drones. They surrounded the Zorath like wolves circling a wounded beast. The human transmission cut through once again. You will not leave, surrender, or vanish. The words were calm, but they carried the weight of death. Varen roared in defiance. "Fire everything! Break their lines!" The void exploded with light. Zorath beams cut through the dark, tearing apart human ships. Explosions thundered across space. For a moment, the Zorath remembered their power. But then the counterstrike came. The humans moved as one mind. Their fleets shifted like water, adapting to every attack. Small ships slipped through gaps, striking weak points. Drones sacrificed themselves to shatter Zorath shields. Boarding parties swarmed, tearing apart engines and command decks. The humans fought not for victory. They fought to erase escape. One Zorath battleship turned to flee. Its engines flared bright, breaking from formation. "Commander, the Ravager is retreating," an officer cried. Before Varen could respond, the fleeing ship vanished in fire. Human ships had been waiting, hidden in silence. The trap snapped shut. "There is no escape," whispered the officer, his voice trembling. On the lower decks, Zorath soldiers panicked. Some tried to seal the halls, fearing human boarding parties. Others muttered prayers. Some turned their weapons on shadows, convinced humans were already inside. The humans fed that fear. Signals echoed through the halls. Footsteps, whispers, laughter. Sometimes real, sometimes faked. Soldiers could not tell the difference. Entire squads collapsed under terror alone. Back on the bridge, Varen fought to hold order. His pride was the last shield the fleet had. "Keep firing. Show them the Empire does not kneel," he shouted. The Zorath unleashed everything: missiles, beams, torpedoes. Human ships fell in flames. But with each one destroyed, more took its place. And still the humans pressed closer. One by one, Zorath ships went dark, engines shattered, bridges silenced. At last, the humans surrounded the Dominion itself. Hundreds of ships floated around it, weapons locked, silent and waiting. The bridge fell quiet. No one spoke. They all knew what this meant. Then came the human, voice again. Calm, cold, final. Surrender, or vanish. For the first time in his life, Varen felt the full weight of fear. His pride told him to fight, to die in fire. But another voice whispered in his mind, the prisoner's voice. Do not attack the humans. They will never let you escape. He understood now. It had never been about power. It was about will. Humans did not forgive. Humans did not let go. And humans had already won. Varen closed his eyes. Around him, officers waited for his command. Fight or surrender. At last his voice came low and broken. Signal them. Commander? His claws trembled. We surrender. The human fleet did not cheer. They did not roar. They only closed tighter, ensuring no escape. The Zorath had made their last stand. And they had lost, as the silence of defeat filled the bridge. Varen whispered almost to himself. What kind of monsters are you humans? But deep inside he already knew the answer. They were not monsters. They were survivors. The final lesson. The war was over. Above Earth, the battlefield was silent, littered with wreckage. Zorath ships, once symbols of unstoppable conquest, floated as broken husks. Human fleets moved among them like shadows, scanning, watching, ensuring no enemy escaped. On the flagship Dominion, Commander Varen sat in chains. The once proud leader of the Zorath fleet now looked older, smaller, as though the fire inside him had been drained. Around him, human soldiers stood guard. Their weapons were simple compared to Zorath technology, but their eyes burned with something far more dangerous. Determination. Varen raised his head, his voice low. Why did you not destroy us? Why show mercy now, after everything? A human commander stepped forward. His uniform was scorched from battle, but his voice was steady. Because destruction is not our purpose, he said. But you must understand. We do not forgive attacks on our kind. We do not allow escape. If you strike us, we will follow you to the ends of the stars. We will never stop. His words cut deeper than any weapon. They were not a threat. They were a truth. Across the galaxy, the story spread. Survivors carried it. Traitors repeated it. Even Zorath spies whispered it. The humans let their enemies surrender, but only after breaking them completely. For the first time, empires that had laughed at Earth began to fear its people. In the prison halls of the Dominion, Zorath soldiers whispered in shame, "We are alive, only because they allowed it." Stronger than us? No. Worse. They are unstoppable. Some wept. Others sat in silence, unable to understand how a species so fragile had defeated an empire. On Earth, humans mourned their dead. They did not celebrate with wild cheers. They buried, they rebuilt, and they promised never to forget. The galaxy watched, and the galaxy learned. Weeks later, Veyron was brought before a human tribunal. He expected anger, cruelty, vengeance. But, instead, the humans gave him words he did not expect. "You invaded our world. You killed our people. But we will not destroy your empire," the human leader said. "We will let you live, so that you carry this story back to your kind. So that all know the truth." Veyron stared at him. "What truth?" The human leaned closer, his eyes cold and calm. "The truth that humans are not prey. Attack us once and you will never be free again." The words haunted Veyron long after. When the Zorath survivors were released, they did not return as heroes. They returned as broken messengers. Their empire, once feared, was now mocked for its defeat at the hands of a young species. But no one mocked the humans. Years later, across the stars, the tale had become legend. Pirates, warlords, even great empires spoke of it in hushed voices. "Do not strike Earth. Do not provoke its people. For the humans never forget, and they never stop." In the quiet of his exile, Veyron replayed the battles in his mind. He remembered how humans fought, reckless, cunning, relentless. He remembered the prisoner's warning, the one he had ignored. "Do not attack the humans. They will never let you escape." He understood it now. Humans were not stronger in body. They were not richer in technology. They were not the oldest or wisest of species, but they were something greater. They were survivors. On Earth, life returned. Cities rebuilt. Families grew. And among the stars, humans expanded, cautious but determined. They did not conquer worlds for glory. They built, explored, and prepared, because they knew one truth above all others. The galaxy was dangerous, and survival was not given. It was earned. And so the final lesson was written into the stars. Humans were not monsters. They were not demons. But if you attacked them, if you struck their kind, burned their homes, killed their people, then they would rise, fight, and follow. They would hunt you down, and they would never ever let you escape.